Welcome. My name is Durand Cook, and it's been my pleasure to participate with others in putting this videotape together over a period of many years. You'll notice in the videotape that some of the hairstyles and clothing look like they might be from the late 80s or mid 90s. They probably are, because it was our intention in editing this tape to get the very finest communication from the participants over a period of years. All of the tape information is relevant today, with the exception of what we call a 6-month rule in finalization of your adoption, which used to be the old law in California. So if you want to disregard something in the tape, that's what you disregard. But other than that, sit back and enjoy this presentation. If there are any questions at the end of the tape that you would like answered, feel free to call us. Enjoy your video.
What you are about to see is a story of independent adoption in an open format. Just two different kinds of love. There was no script. None of the participants were actors.
Once there were two women who never knew each other. One you do not remember, the other you call mother. Two different lives shaped to make yours one. One became your guiding star, and the other became your sun. The first gave you life, and the second taught you to live in it. The first gave you a need for love, and the second was there to give it. One gave you a nationality, the other gave you a name. One gave you the seed of talent, the other gave you an aim. One gave you emotions, the other calmed your fears. One saw your first sweet smile, the other dried your tears. One gave you up. It was all that she could do. The other prayed for a child, and God led her straight to you. And now you ask me the age-old question, through your tears, through the years. Heredity or environment, which are you the product of? Neither, my darling, neither. Just two different kinds of love.
Adoption has long been another way to create families, but one of the newer approaches is referred to as independent adoption in an open format. What it means is that birth parents and adoptive parents actually meet and choose one another. This process is usually facilitated by an experienced adoption attorney or agency. What you're about to see is the result of numerous interviews with adoptive parents, adoptees, birth parents, adoption counselors, an adoption attorney, and other professionals dealing in the field of independent adoption. We hope the educational nature of this video will answer most of your questions regarding the process of independent adoption in an open format, and that it helps to better acquaint you with other people who have made this important decision.
Open adoption is an advantage because it serves all three parties. For the adoptive parents, frankly, I think they should be good consumers. I would not want someone else to choose who my child's birth parents were going to be. I would not want someone else to decide what genetic information I'm going to get and what I'm not going to get. I would not let someone else decide what kind of contact I'm going to have. I think infertile couples in particular need to be good consumers and need to have some sense of control of their destiny.
I'm really excited to think that we were able to voice our needs and not feel bad about the kind of child that we wanted. A lot of people out there will make you feel guilty because they think you should take anything that comes along, and we don't feel that here. We feel that we have a right to what we want as for our child and a family, background and this and that, and he gives the same respect to the birth mother, and that's an unusual quality. It's not just a money-making thing for anybody. I don't feel that at all here.
This just seemed so positive that you have three entities, if you want, three beings that have needs. You have the mother who has a need of something that's not working out well in her life, and she wants the most for her child, the very best, and she has feelings about that. The child needs a good home, and you have people who really want to have a family and really want to give so much love to a child. And it fulfills all those needs.
We wanted an opportunity to tell our child someday how this child came to be with us and under what circumstances the parents or the mother chose to give that child up for adoption. That was really important to us, that child could be able to know something about where he or she came from.
Well, for me, it was really important to meet the birth mothers. That was, I don't know, I know other people would prefer not to, but for me it really enhanced the whole thing, because our birth mothers were so wonderful, and the birth fathers too. But we developed a relationship with them, and we knew them, and I think other circumstances being different, I would have wanted to be best friends with all of them. We built a real strong bond and kinship with them.
I think the parents who are going to adopt the child need to see, who is this woman? Why did she want to give up her child? You know, is she empty? Is she selfish? Does she realize that it's the best thing for her child? She wants her child to have a good life, but wants to know who you are. So I love this whole system of open adoption, and I certainly, absolutely want to promote it in any way I can.
Secondly, I think open adoption is good because it allows the birth mother to have a sense of her own destiny, to not be a victim of circumstance, to take some control, and to do be an active role in providing for her child. Birth mothers suffer a lot of guilt.
I wasn't making enough money to support anybody else. I was unmarried. I didn't have the stability. The Navy doesn't give you the stability of staying in one place long enough to, I guess, raise a child.
And I think that guilt can be minimized if they sense that they've had a strong hand in choosing parents and verifying and feeling in their own hearts that these are a good choice. And that, for her, gives her a sense of peace, that she has been a good mother to this child. She hasn't handed it over and left that decision to someone else.
And that's something that's very special, because if you make that choice, then you are so comfortable with the decision that you've made that it makes it, I think, all the more soothing as you go on with life, that you did make the right choice. You've met these people, they've met you, you know each other. You almost get a feeling for how they're going to raise the child that you carried for 9 months, and it makes you very secure in the decision that you've made.
The other point, too, that was really important to me was that everything's honest, that this child knows all along that there's a birth mother and there's an adoptive mother, and you know that he gets that's okay, and that it isn't something to be afraid of. So I figured through private adoption, I could have all these things happen for me.
If I found out I was adopted, I would certainly want to know why. And it's not something you want to find out later. So I wanted the open adoption so that I know he's okay, that he's doing okay and he's being raised, you know, that I didn't just have him and throw him out into the world.
I don't know how I would have ever dealt with it, not knowing where the baby was going, or is the baby going to be okay. All those questions would have never been answered, and I don't know how I could have slept at night.
Children have a right to know. Young adults have a right to know. To say to a child, we don't know anything about your birth history, is a way of saying we didn't respect you enough to ask. We didn't respect you enough to really think that you'd ever want to know. That we were so much in our own pain, or we decided to let other professionals take charge, that we did not take the time or did not have the psychic energy to find out what you might want to know someday. We could not foresee that. And I think that is a way of saying to a child that you were part of a process, but you were not truly considered. And being able to provide at least answers to a child's questions, I think will minimize the fact that the child goes through identity crisis or has to replicate the adoption experience, and all sorts of other dynamics that we've seen in closed adoption.
Well, a birth parent is like when they give birth. An adopted person is, adopted mother or father is when they go to a hospital and they like go to a court, and then the judge says if I was gonna be theirs, and they said yes. And same way with my little sister.
I've always known I was adopted, and I've always just felt like part of this really neat family.
I don't know what adoption is. I mean, to me, it's my family. That's all I've known, you know, and all the love that I've received from both my parents, those are my real parents. So adoption is just a technical word, you know, for family, so.
Adoption means to me happiness, and I live with a family. And everybody loves me, and I love them.
The adoptions that I've participated in, the birth mother realized that she couldn't do the job. Maybe she was too young, or she didn't have funds, or she didn't have family support, or she had many conflicts, perhaps temporary, that were going on in her life, and she knew that she couldn't handle this at this time. She could perhaps later on in her life. So she decides to give the child to someone who is eager to have a child, who maybe has spent years trying to have a child, who can afford the child emotionally, financially, spiritually, and she knows that she's done a good job. She's raised the child inside of her, she's given the child a place to grow and prosper, and now she has to continue that job. She has to give the child an opportunity to grow and prosper outside of her body.
But when you sit down and talk to a couple who has tried for several years to resolve their infertility through surgeries and the use of drugs and so forth, you will find a couple in a great deal of pain, Marrying and having children are two of the most basic things we do as human beings. And once you're married and have the right spouse, and then you set about to have a family, and you're unable to do so biologically, you do work yourself in, most couples work themselves into a state of much frustration. And the prospect of resolving infertility medically, in some cases, is very good, and in other cases, it's not.
And we kept discovering little roadblocks along the way, and we were finding, well, you know, I had some problems with my fallopian tube, so I had some surgery, you know, like big surgery, and then, I mean, over the last 6 years,
6 years.
we've, sorry, we just tried a lot of things.
I was sick, I was depressed, I was very angry. I was angry with God, because why would he do that to me when he's giving babies to crack addicts? Why would he not have let me be a mommy?
We thought it was gonna work because the gods were shining on us, you know, 16 years, and okay, so we didn't get pregnant on our honeymoon, but you know, we're in a time warp anyway, so you know what I mean? July 10th, they said no, and I just felt like my whole world, you know, fell apart, and we had to really close that door. It was really sad because we have so much to give. We have so much love.
This is a couple problem, not an individual problem. It's not a problem of blame or a problem of feeling angry at a spouse for not being fertile in this relationship. It is a couple problem that has to be dealt with together.
We recommend to couples that come in that seem to still be dwelling on the infertility issue to take a time out and to get that resolved in their life so that when they come in to meet a birth mother, that's past tense, and they can throw their energies and their attention into the open adoption process and supporting their birth mother and bringing human life into the world.
My
experience and seeing how Madeline was affected, and what she said is she just wanted to be a mommy at this point. She didn't care if it was biologically her child, my child, or someone else's. That my attitude about adoption changed fairly dramatically because I really didn't have any options. There was not going to be biologically our child. I wasn't successful in my attempts to inseminate, and it essentially either became that we would adopt a child or not have a family.
I think it was just a matter of deciding that we'd rather be parents than a science project. The goal was to be parents, not necessarily to be biological parents.
And we got to a point where we said, well, personally, I said, my body can't take it anymore. I've been just abused from every possible way. Emotionally, I could probably keep going. Physically, I'm tired. I'm just tired. And emotionally, we wanted to move ahead.
We want a child, and we knew that adoption, like Sherry said, at least we'd see light at the end of the tunnel. And we need to get on with our lives. We want a child, and we felt we need to move on.
Since the last in vitro thing didn't work, and we're sorting out the acceptance of the us not having kids or whatever, basically all we can do right now is to get ourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally and spiritually ready. And that means that we're just paying attention, real close attention right now, and talking out a lot of feelings and reassuring ourselves of a lot of love we have between us. And hopefully by loving ourselves that much, it's going to spill out, and she's going to feel it when she meets us. You know, and that's what her child gets to be raised with. You know, we're not running on empty because of things.
There's a significant difference between a traditional agency adoption and independent adoption. In the independent adoption arena, a birth mother can't sign anything that's controlling, that gives adoptive parents any peace of mind or security until after the baby's born. Sometimes it's as early as 72 hours, and sometimes it's several weeks. So if prospective adoptive parents cannot undergo the stress of that type of risk, then they shouldn't be in the independent adoption arena.
It's a scary thing to put your trust in somebody else that you don't know real well, and trust that she won't change your mind. You know, I think that's the big thing, is to bring that little one home into your home and have the showers and have the family fall in love with this child, make them a part of your family right away, and then to have the child go back with the birth mother is a very scary thing.
You're risking having that dream, hoping for that dream, believing that it can happen, and you're risking having that fall through and how that feels.
Probably any tragedy in this whole thing would be that if you were ready to adopt and had made the decision, and then they decide they don't want to give the baby up. We've already got our mental state going, and we're emotionally involved in all this.
The fear of a birth mom showing up at your doorstep and grabbing the baby has become the sort of fantasy picture that epitomizes all of the bad things about adoption. Number one, it is a fear. It's not necessarily a reality. It's something that is happening in your life that may be coming from her or may not be coming from her. And the truth is that fear is going to stay with a couple until that day that you go into court and get a birth certificate with your name on it. That always is going to be present in some sense.
And I think all along we just kind of knew we weren't getting the baby, and we should have done something about it, so it wasn't like it was such an unexpected blow at the last minute.
We blame ourselves somewhat also for missing a lot of the signs and for allowing this to take place, because we did see a lot of warning signs, like I said, and you want something so badly you sort of just gloss them over and make them smaller than they really are.
If during the relationship you sense any kind of distancing, she's not answering your calls, you feel like she's pulling back, birth father has showed up, that's an important time to check in, or call the counselor and have the counselor do a check-in call with her and a status call, and pull in a third party to make sure that you're keeping it objective.
That was the chance we took. Nobody promised us that this was going to be we were going to go home with a baby. That was something that we hoped for, but there were no promises made to us. We knew that.
Adoption is a human, emotional experience, and not all adoptions progress the way you might expect them to. However, it is important to remember that with patience and perhaps some counseling, you will move through any difficult or unexpected situation, and eventually you will bring a child home with you.
I believe very strongly in counseling, the counseling process in adoption, both for the biological parents and the adopting couple. I think the adopting couple, too, needs to deal with their expectations of adoption. I think they need to dispel their myths about adoption, things they may have learned that are not true.
I think I suggested the counseling, and he thought at first, maybe because perhaps men aren't as open to the idea of counseling, I don't know. But he, at first, I think, went along with it just for my sake. And he told me immediately coming out of it that it was tremendously helpful as far as helping us take some of the blame off of ourselves, just helping us get through the grieving process with someone who was really objective and who knew about this kind of situation, who was a professional who could really help. She's very, very sensitive to our feelings and helped us see more clearly, I think, of what was going on, because it was such an emotional muddle at first.
I recommend counseling for anyone who is in conflict, who isn't sure, who is troubled. It's where there's a conflict, where I'm going to give it up, I'm not going to give it up. I should, I shouldn't. I should have an abortion, I shouldn't have it. You know, when she starts, doing this, then she needs counseling help.
When you're going through this particular situation, you wonder, well, is this unique to yourself? Are you going through these same emotional ups and downs? And the birth mother is, but is the couple doing it, And so you do need that extra hand-holding. And the couples need to hold hands, too.
I think biological parents really need the opportunity to deal with their feelings about this very courageous thing that they are doing.
Birth mothers can look forward to learning all about independent adoption when they contact a lawyer who specializes in adoption or a licensed adoption agency. A birth mother may also have the opportunity to meet with an adoption counselor to help her make the most appropriate decision regarding adoption for herself and her unborn child's life. She can expect to go through an educational counseling process, which among other things will address such issues as her overall health, any drugs, alcohol, or cigarette smoking that she may be involved with since her pregnancy. This process may only take a few hours, but it is very important for the birth mother, in addition to providing prospective adoptive parents with answers to some of their questions regarding the birth mother's commitment level and her general state of health and well-being.
They ask you drugs, diseases, do you smoke, do you drink? I mean, they ask you those questions. And they asked me this. That was our first interview.
The background of our parents, our relatives.
Our parents.
What do they, any of them have any kind of...
genetic diseases,
right,
diabetes, all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. They ask you all those questions.
I think Mary showed a lot of immediate love for the coming child right away by immediately stopping drinking, smoking, improving nutritional habits, sleep habits, everything. It's not like she was a wild and crazy girl, but we both smoked. She quit just like that.
We spend so much time talking about the birth mothers in these adoption settings, we oftentimes almost forget to talk about the birth father. But birth fathers have rights, and those rights need to be dealt with. These are real human beings. And if they're not willing to participate and consent, then their rights have to be terminated in the court system.
I don't believe it's my child. I'm not into this child. I don't know anything about it. I really couldn't afford to have another child. I can afford to support mine, and that's not the way I want to have a child at all. And if we were to have the child, I think it could break us up for good forever. I'm pretty sure. So for when she told me, I think it's the best thing.
I went along with the adoption idea as soon as we spoke about it, purely because having a baby is something that I want to plan for, and for us to be a little bit more financially secure than we are, and to perhaps be living in a bigger environment with more room for the child, as well as I would really like to have the security of owning that environment, be it a house or a condominium. And having us not known each other for we haven't known each other for more than a couple months before the pregnancy happened, I feel very strongly that we would like to see how our lives together develop and see what future has in store for us as far as where we'll end up living together, what we'll both end up doing for a living, and where our income will be coming from, and to plan for a solid financial future before we plan on starting a family.
He doesn't care about the kids. He tells me he don't want nothing to do with this baby. He calls me names because I'm pregnant.
I mean, nothing against the birth father, but having to face him every day for the rest of my life was not exactly what I wanted to do.
When we met, it was just going out, just getting to know each other. And also, half of the time we've been together is her being pregnant. We haven't got a chance to really get to know each other, We're not married yet. And it's just, we still got a lot to do.
Just because he's a man doesn't mean he doesn't have any feelings, guilt, pain, and deep suffering about not being able to care for his child or not feeling responsible. So I always encourage adoptive parents to treat the birth father as a separate entity. Don't treat them as a pair. Don't treat him as sort of an accidental adjunct to the situation.
One of the most important aspects of intaking a birth mother is to assure ourselves that the birth mother has completed on her decision-making process to choose adoption versus keeping her baby. It's extremely important for everyone in the adoption process that the birth mother is clear about this.
I already have a baby. He's 2 years old. And I can't see giving both the babies a life, the quality that I'd like to give them. I can see with one, but I can't see it with two. The birth father is not around, and I just can't do it by myself. And I'd like to give this baby a nice childhood, a nice life in which to grow up in, a chance at life.
23 years old. I don't know what I'm doing. And I want to at least be sure of what I'm doing before I try and raise someone, tell him what to do. So I think somebody else would be better off at doing this than me.
I don't know who I am yet. I haven't attained every goal or everything that I want to do yet.
I want my children to have all the opportunities to be everything and the best that they can ever be. And I just felt at that age and at that stage of my life, I could provide them with all the opportunities and all the chances and just be the kind of mother that I want to be. I know I'm going to be a good mother someday, but at 18 when I was just out of school and a lot of things that I want to do also, just not the right time.
I'm doing it because I love it, and I don't want to put it through what my other kids have been through. They've been through horrible times, through fighting and moving all the time, and not being able to buy it toys that it wants. Just simple little things. And taking it places, just taking it to fun places like Disneyland or whatever. I can't do anything. Just always staying home and listening to fighting or me being upset all the time. That's what would happen to this baby. That's what it would come to. I just wanted to be able to have a happy life, not an upsetting life.
I would say that I did the best. I made the best decision I could, and I wanted the best for this child. And having two adoptive parents that will love him or her to its fullest and give this child a life that I really couldn't. I want that child to understand that decision I made. I was thinking of my child's needs and not my own. And you love your baby, so It's not like you don't love a child, so you give a child up for adoption. It's you want the best for your child, and that's what I do.
I'd like to recommend that above everything else, that the birth mother write a letter to her child. That this letter is available to the child when he or she is old enough to understand what has taken place and get a sense of the fact that this person did not just reject or abandon or dump him or her somewhere, that this person really cared and made a conscious decision and a careful choice of parents.
Once the birth mother has determined that adoption is the best choice for her and her baby, the adoption lawyer or other professional working with the birth mother will generally help to facilitate a warm, open environment in which the birth mother and adoptive parents can get to know each other on a level that will allow them to make a lifetime commitment to each other. Usually this meeting can be an emotionally charged and powerful experience for both the birth parents and the adoptive parents.
Sometimes the reason the meeting is so scary because it brings into a sharp focus and reality that you have not been able to create your family the way most people take for granted. You have to bring in a third party into your relationship to do something that is typically a very intimate thing that is between two people. So remember that there are lots of dynamics going on within you and within her. A good thing to remember is that it's nerve-wracking for everybody. And usually the first 10 to 15 minutes are very tense, and after that you realize that you're all human, you're here for the same purpose, you want something positive to come out of this relationship for a child, and people do tend to relax afterwards. For some reason, when couples meet a birth mom, sometimes they freeze up, they paralyze, they feel like they can't ask her questions that might be of a sensitive nature, but the truth is you're talking about raising this child, and this is going to be your child. And I believe that a couple has the right to ask anything they need to ask in that initial interview to help them feel comfortable with her. Questions like, what gives you confidence that you can do this? How could you deliver a baby and have us take it home? What does your family think? Have you taken any drugs? Is there anything in your family genetic history that we need to know or we need to be concerned about? And what are you doing to take care of yourself?
I guess I'm not looking for so much in the birth mother's personal background, because there's a lot of things that sometimes maybe her family couldn't afford for her, to give her the kind of education. But I guess I'm looking for what did she want for her child, and I'm hoping that what she wanted for her child is exactly what we can give it.
We are going to try and help her get to know us better. So I really think that although we'll probably have a lot of sleepless nights before we really meet her, I'm sure that the meeting would be good, and any questions she had we would try to answer as completely as possible and as honestly as possible, because it's a big decision for her.
Yeah, just basically be open, no pre-expectations, more like just leave it open and play it by ear.
If we can't be ourselves right now, it's going to be discovered down the road, and I'd rather her like us or not like us for who we are right now than to try to fake it or try to please her or to be somebody we're not, because down the road when it gets tense or when we are hopefully in that labor room, I don't want her to see the real us and have it different from the day she met us. It's got to be consistent, and I would hope that she'd want to be herself too, because all we've got is us, and if it isn't good enough, it doesn't mean we're not good enough. It just means that the connection isn't right and that it's meant to be that there's going to be somebody else who's right for us. That's all.
I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know what to do. And I was worried if they were going to be them or if they weren't going to be them and what I was going to say.
When I came here today, I didn't have an overall draft of, okay, they should look like this or they should be like this, they should make so much money. I didn't say that. I came in with an open mind. I didn't know what to expect. I said, it's kind of a scary thought to think, it's almost kind of like a dating game, it's your matchmaking, and who would be these people that would be right for me? How would I know?
Birth moms have the fear that if she gives you this child, you're going to abuse it, you're going to beat it, it's not going to have a loving, warm family. And so she should have the opportunity to ask questions of you, such as, how do you settle your fights? Do you ever respond impulsively to your anger? Were you beaten as a child? What was the method of discipline in your home?
People have to feel right about each other to make it work. And when an adopting couple says, well, you know, I don't feel comfortable with this birth mother, I always recommend to them that perhaps there is another birth mother with whom they will feel comfortable. And then when they tell their child later on, I met this person and she was great and she was a terrific person, they can really mean that.
The other thing that some people overlook that I think is very important is to show a respect for your birth mom and to say some of the things that you're feeling inside that she might need to hear, such as how much you admire her courage for being able to do this, or how much you respect her for being able to do this. And ask her questions like, what would you like us to tell this child? And if a birth mom knows that you are not threatened enough to share the information with a child that they're adopted, or to tell this child about them, that will ease her mind tremendously in making this commitment and this decision. I see how difficult it is for a girl to give her child up for adoption, how much responsibility it entails, how much intelligence, and how much willingness to think beyond your own needs and to think of the needs of the child.
I never thought that I was.
And when I see how there are so few people willing to do this, I am in awe. I admire so much women who can do it.
I'm surprised that by the time a gal gets to this point, I'm surprised anybody does this at all, because they go through a lot to get to this point, and they have to fill out so much paperwork themselves. It's not an easy thing for them, and it made me feel that, you know, they are truly indeed as special as us who get here to this point too. So it can only be good.
So given that meetings I facilitate here between adoptive parents and birth mothers, I ask in front of the adoptive parents, as directly as I know how to, why in the world it is that this woman is here seeking a home for her unborn child through adoption.
Well, I have a child, so I have that experience, and I've experienced bringing a child into this world in a better circumstance than I am in now. And I think because I have a child, I understand how it feels, being a parent, and I love you can feel for a child. But due to my circumstances that I am in now, I wouldn't be able to give that child everything that I think that this child deserves. I'm thinking of what's best for my unborn child right now, and I think a happy, loving family would be the best thing.
So the birth mother has her own crisis in her life when she has an untimely pregnancy, but one of the payoffs that a birth mother gets is resolving the pain and easiness and the sadness of a couple that can't have a child any other way but through adoption. How do you feel about where we are right now?
I would be honored if you would be the parents of my unborn child.
Yes.
Since I spent time with her the last couple weeks before the baby was due, and we asked her a lot of questions about what it was she was going through, you know, so that I could get as close to the pregnancy as possible. And I found out that just spending time with her, that we have similar personal habits, and I mean, it's almost like we were cut from the same mold. It was just the weirdest feeling in the world.
I just didn't have any problem with them as people. I clicked with them right away. I felt that I did, and I think you did too. And so though I was uncomfortable, I was frightened because we were on the line, so to speak. They were looking at us as prospective adopted parents, but I liked them, and I think I must have projected that. And when they chose us to be the adopted parents, it was very emotional. I was relieved, and the only thing I could do was come to tears.
It wasn't quite as emotional as I thought it would be. I think the birth mother
and I became really close friends. And this was all her idea. It wasn't something that somebody told her to do. She felt good about it. She liked that she got to meet us and knew where her baby was going to go, and just like the whole idea about everything. She felt great. She felt good inside. She knew it was the best thing to do.
We met birth mother and got along great with her. And
I think we should say, though, that we were initially so rigid about meeting a birth mother. We didn't want to do it at all. It was the last thing in the world that we wanted to do. We were terrified of it. We thought it was a terrible idea. And when we met our birth mother, she burst into tears the minute that we met her. Tilly, do you want to go with your grandma, or you want to go with your daddy, or you want the microphone? Come here for just a second. She burst into tears, and she seemed so vulnerable. And we hugged her. It was just natural. It was just natural to do it, and then we just all got along.
The matching process is absolutely incredible. I think it's just to go in with a lot of faith and trust, and it's going to work. And it does. It does. It's a wonderful experience.
You want to let her know you're interested in the relationship and not sitting at home scared and shaking, wondering if she's going to change her mind. So it's going to be a service to you because you know what's going on. It's going to be a service to your birth mom because she feels connected to you. And it's going to be a service to your child to have ongoing contact during the pregnancy.
I would like to be very involved, although we were specific with Durand. If she does not want us to be involved, we want her to be comfortable too. If she wants lots of phone calls, I'm your man. If she wants no phone calls, then I'll back off.
It really touched me that they wanted to get to know who I was, what kind of person I was.
For me, it'll be comfortable maybe once a week, even twice a week. She kind of has to get a lot of her ducks in a row with respect to doctors and hospitals and that, and I'm going to help her with that. I would like to get to know her so that I can have something to tell our child about.
It'll be nice to be able to, when he or she asks questions about her, we can actually say we met her and we had lunch with her and she's this way or that way, and I think it will really be nice for the child, for the baby.
We went out to a lot of dinners and lunches and got to know each other, and I went to their house and saw their house, and I got to be pretty comfortable with them.
We've gone to 3 classes so far, once a week, and since she's having the baby at her house, at home, it's mostly classes on procedure, how to relax, so that she can relax herself, and what we can do, me, myself, and Bill, her boyfriend, to help her and to help her relax and to just help her in any way we can, because she does want us there. So Gary and I will be there.
I met her on a Monday night and Monday afternoon, and she went into preterm labor. And the next time that I saw her was at the hospital. And she was in the hospital from Thursday to Saturday. So I was kind of sorry that I didn't get to have like a month or so, although she was due in about 3 weeks anyways. I was hoping to have the time to be able to really, find out a lot of other things about her and this sort of thing, but I didn't get that opportunity.
Adoption is a very personal thing. We assist in facilitating the introduction of birth mothers with adoptive parents. They come in with their own philosophies. Both birth mothers have their own ideas on what kind of communication or contact before birth and after birth would support them going on with their life. And as much as I can, I try and stay neutral, and I try and stimulate the parties in the transaction to come up with their own agreements, knowing that there's a child's life at stake when they make those agreements. So make the agreements based on not only your own personal needs, but what will be in the best interest of the child in future years.
I think it's important before the hospital and before the birth to have a good, long talk with your birth mom specifically about that. What does she want to happen in the hospital? The truth is she calls the shots. The birth and the delivery
is going to go according to how she wants it. So you need to ask questions and not wait to find out what does she want? Does she want you there? Does she want you? I would assume that you would be in the hospital, but does she want you in the delivery room?
But they're more than welcome. I'd love for them to be there for it, because I'm going to be here all by myself anyway. I'm not going to have any of my family. I don't think I want my family there anyway, and I think that'd be it'd be a real good experience for them, because to see their baby being born, because now it's theirs, you know.
I didn't have them in the labor and delivery room. It wasn't because I wasn't comfortable with them. I was very comfortable with them, and I would have had them in there. But I thought that that particular moment was for me.
It's the closest thing I'm going to have a baby myself. Is in being involved in the delivery. It's the closest thing I'm ever going to experience.
I think it's really special that Gary and Kathy, get to partake of the whole birth, and it's partly theirs. And the birth will be something that will always be with them.
You little hero. Juicy one. Just for a second there.
I feel happy. I'm comfortable with my decision, and I'm happy to be bringing life into the world. And I'm happy that Gary and Kathy are there and want to raise it.
Being in the delivery room, I think that was probably the high point of my life. And seeing that baby on the table, thinking that, he's ours, was the greatest gift that she could have given us. But it's like nothing ever transpired other than me having him, because we just went right into motherhood and fatherhood as if he's just ours. That's just the way we feel. So it was such a neat thing that I'm looking forward to sharing with him. I have a whole book all written up and all kinds of goodies and memorabilia and stuff.
For Alexander, we were outside the room when he was born. We started on the monitor, and gosh, it felt like we were right there. It was very smooth. We were close with the birth mom through the whole process. We had lots of time to talk and to know about each other. The day that it came, it was like we were very close. We knew that decision was right.
We saw Matilda within 4 hours, I think, after she was born.
Yeah.
And spent that day with her and brought her home less than 24 hours after she was born.
And this is worth describing. Because she was born at the wrong hospital, there was no support system there for our birth mother, as there would have been at the hospital where she was supposed to give birth. And so we wound up giving her the final support to let go and give us Tilly. And it was... I'm going to cry.
It was the most profound moment.
Experience.
Although for adoptive parents, the hospital setting oftentimes is very joyous as they're interacting with their baby for the very first time. Conversely, when you look at the birth mother situation there, it's not always smooth, and oftentimes it's less than smooth for her to cope with her feelings right after going through labor and delivery. Birth mothers need to say goodbye, and that's a very painful process, because they know when they say goodbye and the adoptive parents walk out of the hospital with her baby, that at least for the next 18 years, that's it. She isn't going to see that little soul.
No, it's the right decision. I'm sad to see him go, though. You know.
and I fed him with the bottle. And David and I held him together, and we just said goodbye. We told him why we were doing this. We told him about Don and Sherry. We told him about all the things that we went through in trying to decide what to do, and we told him that we loved him and that, you know, that we would always be here for him, that this was goodbye, but, you know, that he would always be with me in my heart, and that I was giving him a part of me to take with him. And then you have to leave, and that's the hardest part. The hard part isn't saying goodbye. The hard part is leaving.
She knows it's going to be hard. At the mention of it once in a while, she'll get tears in her eyes. She knows it's going to be hard.
It's not an easy decision, and I know it's going to hurt a lot when it's time to give the baby away. But Gary and Kathy are planning to stay for several hours after the birth, and I'll get to see the baby and hold it. And
it was really hard. I couldn't, when I saw him, I couldn't believe it. I was in shock that was really him. I mean, it was really there. And I didn't really say much. I didn't really do much. I just kind of looked at him. And I held him for a few minutes, told him that I loved him and, you know, that I was here. Put him down and left. And it was the hardest thing I ever did, walking out of the nursery.
She shouldn't be dropped just because they now have the baby, in the sense of emotionally not being there for her and saying, we're here for you, we know this is hard, we sent you a bouquet of flowers, we want you to keep in contact with us with letters, pictures. We know that this was a hard decision for you, and we respect you for that.
Often adoptive parents will send a letter to the birth mom within a week after the birth. And in that letter, they will speak from their heart really about what this has meant to go to the hospital and to take her baby home as their baby.
It was real hard. We'd grown real attached to her and caring for her while she was pregnant, and you know, not only for the baby but for her. And it was real hard leaving her and just saying goodbye and leaving with the baby. I think if she wanted a picture of the baby once a year or wanted to call and find out, and we would reassure her, I don't think I'd feel threatened by her calling or wanting to know how he is or she is.
Occasional pictures, I think, are wonderful. Some couples and birth mothers choose to talk on the phone from time to time. Some people decide that, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to meet again when our child is 18. And I think it's a matter of what each person involved is able to deal with.
We get a Christmas card and a letter and a picture, and we send a Christmas card and a letter and a picture, and sometimes one other letter a year.
You know, I did expect a letter. She told me that she would write a letter, and she didn't. And I suspect that at some point she will write a letter. Although I understand the statistics show that communication drops off quite radically after, say, 2 or 3 years.
The biggest mistake I find couples make is they leave the hospital and say, okay, great, thank you, we'll send you pictures, and you go home thinking you're going to send her a picture in 6 months or the 1-year birthday, and your birth mom is checking the mailbox on Wednesday. And she's going to the mailbox every day looking for the pictures that you promised, thinking that you're not keeping your promise. And that makes her think that you're not going to take care of this child or this child's needs when the child has a request. So it's very important that you don't promise your birth mom anything that you're not intending to keep and that you don't keep exactly when you say you do.
She's called a couple of times, and we've spoken to her on the phone and sent her pictures.
Initially, she said that she didn't want to have any contact at all, I think. She felt like that was going to be too hard, but As a result of some of the things that transpired before, Cindy was really active in helping her through all the process at the hospital. There was a lot of red tape involved, and Cindy went up every week with her to the hospital, and I think that made a big difference to her. So they came out very close friends, I think.
My son's mother, and we hear nothing, but my daughter's mother, she wants photos and wants an update on what's going on. And every time I hear from Durand that she's called, and my heart goes, you know, I don't like that part. And I'll write a letter. And this year was the first time I was able to send Crystal getting dirty, Crystal crying, Crystal, you know, those type of photos that you didn't want to show. You always want to show positive, but to show that she's a normal child.
Once a year at Christmas time, she sends us a letter and we send her a letter with a picture of Justin and also our family, which is now 3 kids. We have 2 adopted boys and a little girl, naturally.
It's the responsibility, I think, that creates the bonding, not the birth process. It's, you know, seeing that child through illnesses or, you know, through their teething or whatever they are, going to their first party or going to their first class or taking their first step. This is what creates parenting.
I can only relate back to Drew because I can kind of maybe tell you my feelings about it. He became mine the moment I saw him. In one part of me, the rest of it took about 6 months. And that was getting over that fear that there may be a change of heart. And it took about 6 months, and then he became totally mine.
Because there's a 6-month uneasy period where there's a part of me that wanted to go all the way and be his mother. But in the back of my mind, I was so scared that I would get myself so far into it that if she came and took him away, you know, I would be just wiped out. But you get through it anyway, and what helped was that she sent us cards saying, "Thank you for doing this for me." So it kind of gave me permission to fall in love with him and really get close to him like a mother should when he's brand new. So yeah, it's scary. It has its moments. But we just get past them. You just keep trucking.
My ideal of bringing up children is that you hopefully educate them and let them fly the roost. So if she was to be in a position to take it back after 6 months, I would just feel very grateful I've even had the opportunity of seeing it for 6 months. So in my own mind, I don't really feel it's mine until at least 6 months are up, and that's kind of like going through a pregnancy in a way.
Holding back is not an alternative. You've got to love this child and just eat them up with sweetness and joy and kisses and hugs and pray. I'd pray a lot. And the 6 months will pass, and most adoptions, I understand, go through.
It was really something, that being in the judges' chambers. Nice man, what a wonderful job he has.
Yeah, really.
And it felt really good. Felt really good.
I guess he feels like he's ours, like he's always been. I mean, even though there was some nervous time, I mean, he's just been like our kid all along. And now he's really there.
And now it's just legal. It's legal. Yeah, we're real happy.
This is only the top of the iceberg of the adoption. All the other hard stuff has already gone through. The cases that are going to be weeded out are essentially weeded out before they get here. So this is kind of the formality that ends it. So everybody has a right to be happy. There aren't many losers here.
My main concern was how I would accept and receive an adopted child. And to my delight, but to no one else's surprise, you know, there's essentially no difference at all. I mean, it was love at first sight.
And it's the child who leads the way, not the parent. It's the child who says, "Come and let me show you who I'm going to be."
I don't know that being an adopted mom is any different than just being a mom. It's the most precious gift of my life. Being a mom is everything that I think any mom expects, is getting up at night with your kids when they're sick, loving them when they're cranky, and assisting them to just be all that they can be.
That first year was very wonderful for us. I mean, it was a realization of a dream come true. Just having that experience of being a parent and watching him grow and mature, and then having baby Timmy come into our lives just kind of rounded it out in a beautiful family way. And as I shared with you, to me the word adoption is a word, but these are our children. They are a part of us as any natural child could possibly be a part of us. We love them with all our hearts.
I'm not saying goodbye. I'm offering her a better life. So it's not really goodbye. It's just welcome into the world. I don't consider it goodbye in any part.
Don't keep it a secret from them that they're adopted. Just let them know as they're brought up that yes, you were adopted and we picked you and you're special to us.
I miss you so much already. The only reason and way I could do what I have done is knowing I can get letters and pictures from Linda and David, so I can check someday, so I can check on you through the years. And if someday you want to meet me, that's possible. Linda and David and I have already discussed that. Or if you just want to meet your half-brother Dioen, you can do that. I can't tell you how much I love you, except to say I loved you so much that I picked the best mom and dad for you.
I think it's better to say that your mother wanted to do this and she knew it was best than to just say your mother gave you away. Maybe there's a special way of saying it that I picked her out of a room of babies. I don't know. I have to wait till the time comes to know what's right to say.
We discuss it a lot. It's like one day Robin, a couple of years ago, was talking about, there was a program about babies been born on a Saturday morning, which I supervised at TV. And this is something I did not know was on. And he goes, now I know all about how babies are born. So I came out of your stomach, Daddy.
Changes from day to day what he understands, but he understood Laura's adoption. And at first, he didn't understand the birth part, you know. He went to the hospital with us when Laura was born and met Laura's birth mother. And he thought that Laura's birth mother was the birth mother for all the babies in the world.
For a long time, it didn't seem to register, but we got a call from my son's preschool teacher, and I can't tell the story without crying, so I'll ask Alan to tell it.
Oh. Well, she said Noah had fallen down. No. When they were talking about, they had a section on childbirth, and the mother had come in who was pregnant and was showing them how babies develop in the womb and in the tummy and how they come out and everything. And the teacher asked Noah, who she knew was adopted, you know what he knew about it and if he knew about growing in his mommy's tummy. And he said, well, I didn't grow in my mommy's tummy. I grew in her heart.
I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They learn much more than I ever knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful
We produced this video with the sincere hope that the material presented would allow you to better understand how birth mothers create an adoption plan for their unborn child, and how adoptive parents build their families through independent adoption in an open format. This video would not have been possible if it had not been for the open sharing from the many adoption professionals and actual clients from the law firm of Cook & Linden in California. All of these people were willing to share their thoughts, fears, hopes, dreams, and real-life experiences with you about adoption so that it might help to dispel any old myths people might still have about what adoption is, how it works, and what it means to adopt a child. If you are interested in additional information on some aspect of open, independent adoption, please feel free to contact an adoption professional in your local community. If you'd like more information about adoption professionals in your area, please feel free to call 1-800-321-2138. On behalf of everyone you've seen and heard from in this video presentation, thank you for joining us. We hope you've gained some valuable insight and understanding about independent adoption in an open format.
I've been searching a long time. Someone exactly like you. I've been traveling all around the world, waiting for you to come through. Someone like you, make it all worthwhile. Someone like you, keep me satisfied. Someone exactly like you. I've been traveling a hard road. They've been looking for someone exactly like you. I've been carrying my heavy load, waiting for the light to come shining through. Someone like you, make it all worthwhile. Someone like you, make me satisfied. Someone exactly like you. I've been doing some soul searching to find out where you were at. I've been up and down the highway, in all kinds of foreign lands. Someone